Hey everybody, Adi here from Hit the Road Music Studio, and thanks for tuning in to the Hit the Road Music podcast. Episode 9 is incredible. We have a very special guest. Her name is Melissa Garcia. Melissa Garcia is the business partner of Emily White. Emily White is a best-selling book author. She wrote the book How to Build a Persistent Music Career. She's an incredible manager with years of experience working with the Dresden Dolls and many, many more. Melissa Garcia brings such a positive vibe and explains us today what she's doing on a daily basis as an artist manager. What are her tasks, why she's doing it, the motivation behind it, and she's sharing golden tips with us to see why we as artists need a manager. By the way, in the background, you see the Pine Farm. We're currently in Zagora in Morocco, in the desert of Morocco. It's an incredible place here. We're just preparing for another record session close to Tagonit, Hamid. If you have time or the possibility, check it out and visit Morocco. It's a wonderful place to be. If you like this content, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you have any questions, leave them down there in the comment section and I will forward them to Melissa. And we are both happy to answer any question you got. So let's tune in into the podcast. So hello everybody. We are here today with Melissa Garcia. And Melissa, how are you doing?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing as well as can be, just working from home as I have been for the last good part of the year and continuing to do so until it becomes safer to leave the house.
That's amazing. Let us know, who are you and what are you doing?
Sure. So I am the co-founder and artist manager and consultant at Collective Entertainment. We are a music and sports company, and we work with a slew of different musicians and athletes on all things management, marketing, social media, album releases, touring, et cetera, et cetera. I myself have a handful of clients, most of which are musicians. I manage Trifecta, Torres. I also do consulting for Urge Overkill, and I manage a professional skydiving team called PD Factory Team. And then more recently, my business partner, unfortunately, is dealing with appendicitis, so I've taken on a couple of her clients in the meantime. So it certainly has added to my plate, but fortunately, we're lucky to have such amazing clients who are understanding and patient. So aside from that, I am also the Chief Marketing Officer of #ivoted concerts. We are in an organization that threw the single largest digital concert event in history on November during the United States national election, where we had over 450 artists from across the world, mostly in the US, perform to help with voter turnout. And then we did the event again in January for the Georgia special elections. So now that that's wrapped up, we're continuing to help spread the word on our iVoted Festival initiative and to hopefully, put on another event in 2022. And then this time, since it'll be post-COVID, it'll be in person as opposed to being completely online.
Wow, Melissa, you rock. Now I know why you have such a busy scheduled week. This is incredible. And what is your prior experience in the music industry? I'm curious.
So prior to working with Collective Entertainment, or before we created Collective Entertainment, rather, I was a music business grad student at NYU, and I was in that program for 2 years. And through that program, I interned at different establishments, but found that I had an interest in management, but more specifically tour management. So I have some tour management experience, and I also have day-to-day management experience. And along with that, I have a marketing and social media background, particularly in digital marketing. I especially like working in branding. But for the most part, leading up to artist management, it was a lot of time and effort put towards day-to-day and tour management, and then eventually taking on my own clients.
Wonderful. So how came the idea to start Collective Entertainment together with Emily? What was the motivation to start this?
Well, first off, if you don't know who Emily White is, please research her. She is amazing, and I'm so lucky to have her as not just a business manager, but she's also been a mentor of mine for many years. I started, my first internship was actually with Emily when she had a different management company, and that's when I got my chops to really dive into day-to-day management, tour management, and full-time artist management. And so over the years, as I learned more, as I started taking on my own clients, her and I have always had such a great working relationship. We've really, understood each other. We work really great together professionally. And personally, she's a really great friend of mine. So that when the time came, it made sense to start this new venture together. And so we formed Collective Entertainment. And what was really great was that aside from creating a new name, everything, the operations, the client, the rosters, it all pretty much stayed the same for the most part, except, we're under this new umbrella.
Incredible. So I'm wondering what are your daily tasks? Like what you have to take care of on a daily basis?
I have to take care of a lot of things. I'll start with the management side. So aside from, helping to oversee our company, Collective Entertainment, and also working with, the people that are on our team as well as our interns, I focus a lot of my time and effort on each individual client. So my daily tasks can go anywhere from, following up with clients to, helping brainstorm new ideas for an album release or a tour marketing plan, to something as simple as social media and just ensuring that we have content that we're working on. So aside from that, it is inbox, checking my emails constantly, trying my best to clear it, even though I'm not always that fortunate to clear my inbox, as well as Slack. So internally, we operate within Slack, not just my internal team, but with my clients too. I actually have all of my clients, not all of them, actually most of them, on Slack. And so that's how I communicate with them for the most part. And what's been really great about that is it's streamlined communication, because I'm not sure if you were aware, but a lot of artists are sometimes slow to get back to you on things. So we also have to think about ways to make the communication process efficient. And then, of course, depending on the day of the week, I'll have weekly catch-up calls with specific team members, or I'll have calls with my clients. And for the most part, I try to shove all of my calls on Tuesdays and Wednesdays so I can have the rest of my week free to focus and clear that inbox by Friday. And then, if I'm lucky and a client sends over music, then I'll spend, an hour, 2 hours just listening to their music over and over again. And aside from that, putting out the occasional fires.
Wow, so you said branding is your favorite part of this. So you are helping also to develop a brand with the artists or with your clients?
Yes, a lot of what we do, and what's really great about being an artist management, especially these days, is you have to wear a lot of hats. And branding has always been something that I found very interesting because it's all encompassing. It's basically the embodiment of that artist or that client. And so it's always really fun creatively to figure out, okay, here's this artist, here's who they are in, as an authentic person. How do we translate that into press photos, into their bio, into how they communicate with fans, what content they put out? And so I really enjoy being able to bridge that. And then if I take on a new client that doesn't quite have, a foundation for a strong brand, then we work side by side with them to help build and cultivate that. And one of the things that we try to press on, especially within, my own team, is making sure that it's true to the artist and not something that us as managers construct. It needs to come from the artist. And so that's one of the things that I really like. And I also love visuals. I'm not a graphic designer, but I love graphic design. I have such a respect for it. And I have a respect for art as far as photos and videos. And so because I have that natural inclination, branding has always been something that I've gravitated towards, that I've always been really fascinated with. And then I always try to fine tune it with my clients.
That's incredible. Yeah, the branding part. I have also big respect for especially logo designers. I finally found one I can trust, and this is incredible. When I compare what I tried to do with what he delivered me, I was bursting in tears. It was incredible. So you have a incredible job to work together with the artists and really. So it goes also to artist developing.
I would say a lot of that. I would say that because especially in the last decade, we're seeing artist managers taking on more of the role that labels would have, 20 years ago, where now they're starting to work with newer artists that don't have a big following, and now you're trying to work to build towards that, because that is labels nowadays want to find artists that already have established some kind of a following. And so with artist development, it's been a really it's a challenging process, but it's also really rewarding when it clicks, especially for your artist, for the band, for the client, where they start to realize like, oh, this is who I am. And when that brand solidifies, everything else as far as artist development becomes slightly easier. I mean, you're always going to have challenges, but in terms of artist development, you can't really have a developing artist without that foundation, and the branding as well as the music, which is of course very, very important. It's the most important things, the music. You can't have anything grow if you don't have the foundation to build that on.
So true. So I'm now curious, do you take also care about the social media, about the posts that get delivered, that they use the right hashtags and all kinds of stuff? Do you take care also about the artist profiles, or is it something where you can point the artist to, like, hey, maybe you should make your posts more, you can use this, what was it called, Lightroom presets, for example, and then maybe optimize your hashtags, use all 30 hashtags. Do you give them advices, or do you really take care also of the profile? I'm just curious.
So for the most part, I let the artists drive their social media platforms and accounts simply because that's the most authentic way they connect with their fans. I have in the past, I've run social media accounts for artists before, but it never does as well as when an artist embraces social media and takes to posting regularly and puts out content and thinks about this almost like if they have a to-do list of priorities, it should be music, and then number 2 should be fans and social media. And so it makes it a lot easier when the artist is able to do that, and then I'll come in and mention, hey, we're doing this campaign. Here are 3 ideas of the different kinds of content we should think about putting out. Here's, other, ideas that we can do. But I like artists to drive that. And then when I see that there can be areas to improve upon, or there's areas that, need to change or switch, then I'll come in with the advice. The only client that I really truly run social media on is my skydiving team. And because with sports, it's different. With sports, you don't have music that you're selling or trying to get streams on. You're basically putting out there a brand. They're basically. I don't like calling them an influencer entity, but they're essentially an influencer, right? That's what athlete pages are like, what other celebrity pages are like. And so for that, I'm very particular about the content that we put out, because it's all visual, it's skydiving, it's an extreme sport, and you have an audience beyond skydivers that you can tap into. So my strategy changes when it comes to sports, and particularly with my skydiving client, than when it comes to my musician clients.
Oh, yeah, this makes totally sense. So who are your clients? Like, you have a wide variety of clients. You're taking care about musicians, sports, and who else?
Okay, so I did mention Trivecta. Trivecta is an EDM dance producer who does primarily melodic dubstep. He does trance as well as bass music, and lately he's been experimenting with what he calls folk bass, which is a combination of bass and dance music with folk influences. And so that's been really exciting for his fans and for when he plays those shows. And I also manage an artist by the name of Torres. Her real name is Mackenzie Scott, and right now we are working on her next album, which is going to be her 5th album. It's going to be coming out on Merge Records, and so we've been focusing a lot on the new music, especially because she released an album last year during COVID, and it's just, last year was just it was just not fun for most of the industry. And then I also do consulting for Urge Overkill, complete legends. They're really, if you've never heard of Urge Overkill, everyone please go and Google them. They're really great. They're such legends. Jack Black occasionally will play their music on his social media. And then there's also the Factory team, which is my skydiving team.
I got a question. What would be your best advice for people who want to become an artist manager? If there's just one advice from probably many that you received, but what would be your number one advice?
Get enough sleep. just get as much sleep as you can. And I could spout out 10 other pieces of advice, but the reason why I say that one is because if you are not sleeping, you're not operating at your 100% capacity, and then that affects your decision making. It affects how you communicate. It affects what happens with your clients. And when your decision is impaired, that could make a difference between something great happening with a client versus something not so great. There are people that I know that can operate on 5 hours of sleep alone, but science has shown that our bodies need, at least 8 to 9 hours. So I wish that I had followed this advice in my early 20s, but it's something that I'm certainly following now that I'm in my 30s.
Wow, this is incredible advice. I remember a quote. It was, "Silence is the foundation of music, and rest is the foundation of work." So when you really rest your body, you can do more. You can, as you said, make better decisions and work more effective. So
I love that quote. That's such a great quote. I'm going to write that down after our talk.
I don't know where I got it from. I think it's Sadhguru, or I'm not sure. But the quote is, it's really, really good. It made me also realize, you should rest a bit. Very important. So, and what would be the best advice that you received in those times?
Oh, this one I still stand by, and my business partner was the one that actually told me this when I interned for her 10 years ago, which is, don't get too high about the highs and too low about the lows. And that still resonates with me to this day, because it's so easy to get caught up with how the music industry constantly fluctuates. But in order to quote unquote, perform as an artist manager to the best of your ability, you have to really stay focused and even keeled, because the reality of this job, and probably with any job that you take on, is that a lot of things will not go right the first time, maybe even the second time, or they just won't go right at all. And there are going to be other times that will be amazing and feel like everything is coming together. But at the end of the day, mentally, you have to prepare yourself to just stay even keeled, so that when you have a win, take the time to celebrate, move on to the next one, because that's your job. If you feel like you failed, feel whatever it is you need to feel at that moment, and then you have to move on to the next thing, because these careers, they need to keep going. They're not stopping. And so that's something that has continued to resonate with me to this day professionally.
Great advice. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
And now I got a tricky question.
Okay.
What's the worst advice that you received in those times?
Oh. Maybe this was good advice when I was much younger, but I wouldn't say this is good advice now. Saying yes to everything. And actually, Emily was the one that gave me that advice, so I hope she doesn't get upset with me. But I think that at a certain time, you have to pick and choose what is a priority in your life. And when I say that it's not best to say yes to everything, I'm saying that you really have to analyze what is important, what you need to prioritize. You have to think about, you know, who you're taking on as a client, what they have going on in their careers. And you also have to recognize that time is not infinite and that you have to be very real with what you're able to do and what you're not able to do. When I was still in college, I said yes to everything, but I also needed 5 hours of sleep to operate. But as I've grown in my professional career, when you have the ability to pick and choose, then you can really dive into these projects or these ideas that mean a lot to you. And you're focusing as much time and effort on those projects or those clients, and the things that are not as important, the things that don't excite you as much, you can push them off to the side. Because the reality is, we are in this industry, we love music because we're passionate people. And so we want to be able to put as much time and effort towards our passions or things that will further ourselves, you know, professionally, educationally, emotionally, personally, whatever that may be. But saying yes to everything is something that I've learned I don't want to do anymore now that, you know, I've grown into the person that I am today on a professional level.
Amazing. Oh, I think what I also once heard, like a quote, was sometimes it's good to say no to the good and say yes to the better.
If you like think about a time when you said yes to something that you didn't want to do and how painful it can be to do that. That's what you want to remove, because you don't want to feel like you were guilted into something or you're forced into something. But it's ultimately just being honest with your limitations and honest with, you know, what your desires are.
So true. Melissa, tell us, what are your next steps for 2021?
Ooh, gosh. Well, my next steps ultimately are to, it's tough because I feel like, especially in the US and even in Europe, because we have some European partners, we're almost like in a holding pattern where we're waiting to see what happens in the next couple of months before we can really truly feel confident in our strategies that we have. I feel like right now we're at a point where we have these plans, we have these strategies, but we're ready to change them, you know, at a moment's notice because we don't know what's going to happen. My hope is that in 2021, my artists can release the new music that they've been wanting to release and that they'll be able to tour them, hopefully starting at the end of this year. And then aside from that, on a personal level, I would say that my personal professional, you know, level is I'm hoping to continue, you know, my journey with getting enough sleep because, you know, unfortunately this pandemic is affecting all of us mentally, and our wellness. So I'm continuing to try to do new things to help maintain a strong level of wellness so I can continue to take care of myself and then thereby taking care of my clients, which include eating healthy, continuing to exercise, yoga, meditation. So all the things to continue keeping us healthy.
These are incredible plans. When you are healthy, you can help your clients in the best possible method, especially when you eat good, sleep good, and to sport. So staying active. This is really cool. Sounds like great steps. And believe me, I think everybody's just hoping that there will be live shows again. And
I'm right there with you.
Yeah. Incredible plans. And last question for today. If you like, share your top 3 bands that you discovered lately.
Ooh,
Can recommend for us.
lately, I've really been liking Yuno, YUNO. I think he's released on Glassnote, if I'm remembering correctly. But you know, if you're into like that indie, you know, pseudo pop kind of vibe, his music has been a standout for me. And then I actually just listened to Taurus's upcoming album. She sent it to me last night, and I listened to it today, and I am so excited for it to come out this year. So keep your eyes and ears peeled for that. And then let's see, what's another one? Gosh, maybe I'm pretty bad at this because I listen to a lot of my clients' music.
That's okay.
Yeah. And then I would say that now that I'm working with Julia Nunes, who I've been a fan of before, I've been listening to a lot of her newer music and just being a fan of hers. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. If you have any tips, or not tips, but if you have any recommendations, I'm definitely open to checking out some stuff.
At the moment, I'm discovering more older music. Funny story, we are in the city of Sidi Ifni in Morocco, and we just read that Robert Plant have his studio here. And now, who knows? But now I'm discovering the old Robert Plant records, and I'm just tuning into this music again. So nothing new at the moment.
Yeah, it's so funny because I love classical music, so a lot of the times, especially when I'm working, I'll listen to classical music.
Mhm.
Emancipator. I've been listening to Emancipator a lot lately, and yeah, such great music to work to and cook and clean to. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. I will check it out. Actually, I discovered the lo-fi beats just for doing something.
Well, like Emancipator then. Yeah.
Okay. Good. This is amazing. Melissa, thank you so much for this incredible insight into your daily work, what you're doing. I think you're doing an incredible job. And where can people find you and hire you?
So you can check out our website. It's collectiveinc.com. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. And you can find me personally on Instagram at _Melissa Garcia. And then you can also find us on ivotedconcerts.com if you want to find out more information about our iVoted initiative. And yeah, I'm also on LinkedIn if you want to add me.
Amazing. I will put all the links down in the description so people can follow you and check out the new artists that you are managing at the moment and discover new music.
Amazing.
Thank you for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun.